Greetings and welcome to this episode of Touhou Character Introduction, where we'll be discussing the Oni that drinks exclusively sake to survive, Suika Ibuki. Suika first appeared as the main antagonist of Immaterial and Missing Power, the first spin-off game in the series, by the way, and has been a recurring character in the spin-off since. Although she has notably made only a single appearance in a mainline game, namely, she appeared as a support character to Reimu in Subterranean Animism. Personality-wise, Suika demonstrates all the basic traits of an Oni. For starters, she values honesty and strength extremely, the latter of which is often expressed through getting into fights. Furthermore, she's a complete drunkard, having even gone on to invent her now iconic Ibuki gourd, which uses a sake bag in order to turn water into sake. Move over, Jesus. She is also quite jolly and even childish, but she can also be quite perceptive. In terms of abilities, we have to start with her strength, or more accurately, her super strength. To put this into perspective, two people in universe, namely Reimu and Aya, both consider her to be one of the strongest, if not the strongest person in Gensokyo physically, even if Suika herself believes that Yugi is probably stronger than her. Moreover, there's her distinctive ability, that being the power to manipulate density and sparseness. Essentially, she can either compress or disperse any object. To make this easier to understand, I refer to some things we know she can do with this ability. She can compress her attacks to increase their power, alter her body's density to turn into a mist that can potentially cover all of Gensokyo, turn into a giant, disperse into many little versions of herself, create a black hole-like phenomenon, and suck the opponent's strength. What? In addition, this power seems to work on things without a clear physical form, to a certain extent at least, as she can gather spirits, as well as the thoughts of others. You know, at this point I'm not even gonna question it. Due to these powers, she's generally considered as one of the strongest beings in Gensokyo, being given one of the 4 divas of the Yokai Mountain. Well, she lived there at least. Speaking of which, Suika doesn't really have a particular place in which she stays, but rather she moves around in different locations frequently. Originally, she lived on Yokai Mountain, where she was basically one of the top dogs there. Later, she moved to the underworld, the home world of the Oni, before moving again back to Gensokyo, usually hanging out at the Hakure Shrine, and that's not even mentioning the fact that she owns real estate in heaven. Check out my Tenster video. When it comes to relationships, well, we've got quite a bit to talk about, so I'll try to make this short. For starters, there's Yuki, a fellow Oni and one of the other devas of the mountain. She's one of Suika's closest friends, and they're sometimes seen hanging out at the human village together. Next, we have another friend she made during her stay at the mountain, Yukari. The circumstances that led to them becoming friends are unknown, but regardless, it's clear that they understand and care about each other to a great extent, even if Yukari can be quite underhanded at times, something that Oni generally look down upon. For reference, they are such close friends that they sometimes even meet to play together. And by that, I mean that they repeatedly shoot each other in the face. Moving on from one sage to another, we have Kazen, the last known diva of the mountain. Their relationship is interesting as they act casual around each other, but Kazen was also actively avoiding her during the events of Wild and Horned Hermit, which could imply that they are not really on good terms. However, I personally don't think that's the case. Hear me out. At the start of the manga series, Kazen was trying to hide the fact that she's an Oni, so coming into contact with a person that is not only aware of her true nature, but also known for being extremely honest, could lead into her secret getting out. In addition, there's the Shrine Maiden of Hakure's Shrine, Reimu, a person that initially caught Suika's interest due to her honesty, leading to her visiting the shrine quite often. Currently, they are so close that Suika even gifted Reimu with an Ibuki gourd of her own in order for them to easily drink together. Speaking of said gourd, let's talk about Miyoi. Originally, the two of them met when Miyoi possessed the Ibuki gourd in order to see the world beyond Gedonte. After finding out, Suika agreed to let her do so whenever she pleased, as long as she kept the bar open through the night for her, as well as any other yokai that would show up. Lastly, there's Patchouli, a person that seems to have an innate and at first subconscious disdain towards Oni, something that led to her obsessing over taking Suika down. This was expressed through her hosting a Setsubun, a festival that repels Oni at the Scarlet Devil Mansion annually, despite the fact that every other resident despises it. Not to mention that the true mistresses are vampires, which are closely related to Oni as well. Although it's worth noting that this is more of a one-sided hate boner, Suika doesn't really reciprocate the feelings. Except for when she blew up the moon, but that's a whole other story. When it comes to her popularity, well, needless to say, Suika is one of the most popular characters in the series for basically every reason you can think of. She has a cool theme, an iconic design and personality, has appeared in the first generation games as a final boss no less, and she makes frequent appearances. And that's without counting the popularity spike she got thanks to the Japanese goblin memes. Oh, the Japanese goblin memes. I'll be honest, I do not know if I love them or I hate them. My perception of this meme is covered in so many layers of irony that it's hard for me to tell anymore. Well, with that said, if you enjoy this sort of content, then by all means, check out the video currently on your screen, subscribe for more, and leave a comment telling me which character you'd like to see next in this series. Have a good one!